So you decided to walk the Camino. Congratulations, that's a huge step. Now that you've probably booked your flight or train, the next step is figuring out where you're going to stay every night of the Camino Frances. In this video, I'm going to give you my first-hand experience staying at albergues, hotels, and hostels on the Camino Frances, give you an inside look at private rooms and shared accommodations, and answer some of the biggest questions you might have, like what is an albergue? What is the difference between a private and a municipal albergue? And should I book in advance or just show up the same day? Throughout my 500-mile solo journey, I stayed at over 30 albergues, hostels, and hotels. Some were right on the most popular stops along the way, while others were a little bit more off the beaten path, rustic and charming. I stayed in both private and shared rooms, so I really had a good mix of what's out there. By the way, a little intro before we get started. I'm Jen, and I'm always on the run around the world. On my channel, I share tips on solo female travel and mindful living. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it so far. Okay, now let's get into it. So first things first, you might be like, but okay, Jen, what is an albergue? An albergue is like a hostel for pilgrims on the Camino. Essentially, albergues are budget-friendly lodgings that provide a unique Camino experience, offering a place for pilgrims to rest, socialize, and share their journey with fellow travelers. For many albergues, you have to present your pilgrim passport in order to stay. Many albergues also allow you to stay for only one night. Albergues come in various forms, ranging from large dormitory-style rooms with over 50 bunk beds to smaller rooms with just 4 beds. Common facilities include shared bathrooms, kitchen areas, and common spaces for relaxation and conversation. So, types of albergues on the Camino Frances. First up, we have the classic Municipal Albergue. These are usually run by the local government, and they're perfect for budget-conscious pilgrims who don't mind just the basics. Municipal albergues can cost anywhere from €6 to €15. Next on the list are private albergues. These are a bit nicer, offering smaller shared rooms, private rooms, and sometimes even attached bathrooms. Fancy, right? One bed at a private albergue can vary in price, anywhere from like around €15 to €30, but they generally offer a bit more comfort or just like less beds per room. There are also donativo albergues or Parroquial albergues, which are usually run by religious organizations, frequently a monastery or a convent. They're typically run by volunteers and maintained by the donations that they receive from pilgrims. These albergues offer the most basic facilities, like sleeping on the floor, like I did in Gragnon, but often have a beautiful sense of community housed within their walls. We had an amazing community dinner in Gragnon, and this was a really special experience that I'm never gonna forget. Other types of accommodation on the Camino Frances. Don't forget, you can also book hotels and Airbnbs on the Camino Frances. Depending on the city and location, a private hotel room can cost you between €50 and even €150. A private room at a hotel will usually provide you with bed sheets, privacy, and an attached bathroom. I also stayed at a few Airbnbs on my Camino. You can rent a private room in a shared apartment for about €30 a night. I stayed at an Airbnb in Logroño, Pamplona, Zubiri, and Santiago de Compostela at the end of my Camino. I loved staying at Airbnbs because they're just a little easier on your wallet than the hotels, but you also get your privacy and no curfew. So should you book albergues on the Camino Frances in advance? This is a huge question. This was one of the most nerve-wracking questions I had before I started my own Camino. And honestly, there is really no consensus on the best way to do this. People were divided on whether to book in advance or not. It kind of just depends on your style and whether you prefer freedom and spontaneity or planning and security. In my opinion, I would recommend booking your first 5 to 10 nights ahead of time when you're at home before you leave for your trip. That way you can take time adjusting to life on the Camino, figure out your pace, and decide what works best for you. Everyone walks at their own pace on the Camino. How far you want to walk each day is really up to you. There are some common stops where most people stay each night. These are called stages. But if you don't want to walk as far, or if you want to walk farther, or if you just want to avoid the crowds, you don't have to stay at these most popular common stages. One thing I'll note, if it's important to you to stay in private rooms the entire Camino, you should definitely book your rooms ahead of time to ensure availability. The other option, on the other hand, is to just show up to your albergue whenever you just arrive, whenever you get there that day. If you want to go this route, you probably want to try to arrive every day when the albergue is open right at 1 o'clock. So that means leaving earlier in the morning so you can finish your walk by around 1 o'clock. This makes sure that you can get a bed where you want to stay the night. Sometimes you may have to walk to the next town if the albergue is already full. I met a lot of people who did their entire Camino this way, and they always found a place to sleep for the night. I'm super curious, what are your thoughts on booking ahead or arriving at your albergue the day of? Have you already made reservations, or are you planning on booking right when you arrive? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so now that you want to book your place ahead of time, how are you going to do it? I recommend using booking.com to reserve your first 5 to 10 nights before you leave for your trip. That's the easiest way to see availability and reserve a spot. Now, as you continue on your Camino, you're going to get a better idea of how far you want to walk each day and the towns you want to stay in. Some albergues aren't on booking.com, or some don't even have websites. So I recommend sending a message through WhatsApp directly to the albergue or calling the place directly. You want to do this at least 2 days ahead of time, depending on how busy the season currently is. I walked the Camino in August and September of 2023, and it was busy, but apparently not as busy as the year prior. If it's not super busy when you're walking, or if you're planning on walking past the major town that most people stay the night in, you can probably just call or message the same morning at about 10 or 11 a.m. to book your place for the same night. You will want to know how to say, is there a room available in Spanish? All that said, for the last 100 kilometers of the Camino Frances, you want to book farther in advance. I'd say at least 3, even 5 days ahead of time, because in the last 100 kilometers, starting in Sarria, a lot more people join the Camino, and the demand for a place to stay increases a ton. One more note on this, you will want to download either the One Camino or the Wise Pilgrim app to help you plan the stages of your route. Both apps have accommodation options listed, and the Wise Pilgrim app actually has the WhatsApp number right in there. So you can just press the number and it takes you right to WhatsApp, and you can just write your message. I loved it. Once you know which town you're heading for the night, you can decide which albergue or hotel you want to try booking at. Where to stay on the Camino Frances, in my opinion? Well, the answer lies in the type of traveler you are. Prefer your privacy and bringing a lot of expensive equipment with you? You probably want to stay in private rooms or hotels. looking for community and/or are you on a budget? Then stay in albergues and stay in the municipal ones to meet more people. I noticed that for some reason or another, it was way easier to make friends at municipal albergues than at the private ones. Where did I stay? Both. I started off booking hotels and private rooms, but I started meeting more people and I started staying at albergues with them more often. I got used to shared accommodations after a while, and it really fit my budget better too. If you're leaning towards private rooms the whole way, I would encourage you to try staying at an albergue at least once to see what it's like. Choose an albergue that looks nice, like check out the photos and read the reviews. Stay at one that has a nice communal dinner and just give it a try. If you're ready to book your accommodation along the Camino, check out my blog post, which lays out every albergue, every hotel, and every Airbnb I stayed at on the Camino Frances. This is what I loved about each place, what I didn't love about each place, my honest take on every single place that I stayed. I'll leave a link in the description below for you to check out. All right, now, if you're curious to watch my real life experience on the Camino, I have an entire playlist that chronicles my adventure on the Camino Frances. Check out the video on day 1 to 5 from St. John to Puente La Reina next. And if you made it this far and you're not already subscribed, make sure you tap on that subscribe button and turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss when I post these videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Buen Camino.